And this is very cool. Okay. It's a boring, but I got. It's a get our own. Yeah, thanks. Who else has been out the last 2 days?
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Rio Dell City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Barnes?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carter?
Here.
Councilmember Orr?
Here.
Councilmember Wilson?
Here.
Councilmember Woodall?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public presentations. This is the time for persons who wish to address the council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the council has jurisdiction. As such, a dialogue with the council or staff is not allowed under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Items requiring council actions not listed on this agenda may be placed on the next regular agenda for consideration if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that the item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Okay. Nothing else? No. Seeing no public outcries, we will move on to the consent calendar. Is there any item that would council would like to pull from the consent calendar?
Item 6.
Okay, we'll pull item number 6. Anyone else? Any member of the public? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to approve items 1 through 5 of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Motion carries 5-0. Councilmember Woodall, item 6.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull up because I thought I would ask Amanda to talk a little about it so that our public could hear it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I asked for this to be placed on the agenda, just so that we had, hopefully unanimous council approval for this. The retaining wall down on Edward Street is not the same as the art project for the Eel River Trail. We're talking about the very beginning of Edward Street that is constantly graffitied. And we just keep painting over it and they just keep on coming back. So this is a proposal for a lovely group of people headed up by one lovely person who would like to raise funds and get together some of the kids in our community, like more teenage, maybe kids, work with kids at the school, to design and workshop and some kind of graffiti mural, right? That would happen under the tutelage of a professional artist, and this would be not paid for by the city, but would be fundraised for. And it just is a really lovely community project. And as you can see here, there'd be an anti-graffiti code applied on top so that it would be a little at least easier to clean up in the event that that does happen. I think this is a great idea. I don't even know what the design is, and I don't really think I need to, because anything is better than the offensive racial slurs and penises that are currently drawn on that wall, at least once a month. So, yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Oh, okay, and I wanted to say, I was telling Amanda down by the Adorney Center, the wall that goes down toward the bridge, they have some nice graffiti down there. I mean, it's graffiti art, but it's very nice art, so, it can be nice.
Absolutely.
Sure. And I think it'll just give some ownership, right? If we have a youth, we're doing another youth art project. That's why this is confusing. That's going to be elementary school age kids. This one would focus a little bit more on some of the kids who maybe weren't included in that. And because that is basically going to be the gateway to the Eel River Trail, I think it'd be best if that didn't have a bunch of offensive graffiti on it.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to that?
Yeah, this is kind of what I came here for too. So, and yeah, one of the little ideas too is maybe say Eel River Trail this way. And so each one could have a different lettering or whatever the kids get involved with. So, like to contact the kids at the school, like maybe just go to the school have them get a hold of kids. At an unknown date in the future, we're gonna do a project. I've got a couple artists that we're gonna go to the resource center, and we're gonna just kind of make a whole, we're gonna have some workshops that we're gonna put together. And so at an unknown time in the future, we're not like setting like, here's the workshop date, here's the finished date. It's also gonna be in conjunction with Ink People Center of the Arts. So we're gonna use their nonprofit 501c13 to funnel the money through, which will all be, everybody's volunteer. So the only thing that costs is for materials. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the kind of project we really appreciate.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, no, that's
Do you
it.
have any questions? Councilmember Wilson? Any staff, any public, any emails?
Nope.
Hand raised. Okay. Then I would call for a motion to authorize the mural.
I make a move to approve.
I will second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 5-0.
How about it?
Staff communication, city manager, page 25 in our packets.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes, members of the council. So in case anybody is not aware, today, November 5th, is election day, and the polling location at Monument Middle School is still open, but it closes at 8 p.m. So if anybody needs to rush over there, I would advise doing it as soon as possible to get your vote in for tonight's election. In other election news, the city's art competition for the Eel River Trail project is scheduled. So members of the community can come to Rio Dell City Hall on November 9th and 12th to cast their votes for the winning art competition. So our partners in the project, Redwood Community Action Agency, were able to solicit 13 proposals from artists for the project. And those submittals will be judged by members of the public and voted on. And it is a community selected art project here in Rio Dell. And so the upcoming date for the first vote is Saturday, November 9th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's this coming Saturday. There will be refreshments provided. And then there will be a second opportunity to vote for those who missed the Saturday meeting, which is Tuesday, November 12th from 5 p.m. To 7 p.m. So from there, the final three winners, or there will be a winner. And on the city council meeting, the council will ratify the choice of the community votes. So that will be coming up. We certainly want to encourage everybody to participate and cast their vote in the art contest. The city's also working on our proposal for the 2025 slurry sealing project. We did have an initial meeting set up by the city of Arcata. Just one of the observations there is that it does not look at this point in time that there's going to be a lot of participation from other jurisdictions. One of the main advantages of the project, when there's a lot of different participants, in particular the county spending a lot of money on it, is the scale of the economy of scale that lowers the cost of the project. So it's something that we're just looking at. We're still going to be submitting a proposal for that project. And then staff has been working with Caltrans recently on the bridge replacement project for the northbound 101, just on the north end of town, problem solving some water displacement of water lines for the city. And I want to just give a kudos to the senior management at Caltrans for being open to holding a meeting and communicating with us and proactively looking into some of the issues that we raised with the bridge replacement project. None of them are insurmountable obstacles, but it was nice to receive that support from senior management. With that, we're happy to answer any questions that are in the staff report.
Thank you, City Manager. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to the staff and to everyone who was involved in getting our solid waste situation under control. And if we are not the only one, we are likely to be one of the few, if not the only one, to be in compliance. And that's awesome, and we appreciate all the work that staff has put into it. I just have one question on the bridge thing. Is the walkway bike side, is that in the conversations?
Yes, the council received a presentation about a year ago on the topic, and my understanding is that there is going to be a space available for the cross connection. We can reach out to them to see if there were any updated designs or visuals and distribute those to the council. You may recall that they were kind of focused in their presentation on the art aspect of the bridge replacement and the fish design that was going to be utilized on the river, but on the bridge. But we can follow back up and see if there are any new designs.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just gonna ask about the bike lane, so that's it for me. No further questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Orr.
No question.
Councilmember Woodall.
She's gone.
She knew.
She did.
She did. Councilmember Wilson.
No, everything's fine, just as a point of, Saturdays and nights, not the, on your calendar for the voting process. And I also would echo, the mayor's comment on the garbage, solid waste. The other city, I don't know what their issue is, but they're not taking it seemingly seriously, or there's some reason they're holding back and not moving ahead on it. So, but I don't know what that is. I talked to Eric some about all these stuff in that, and none of the other jurisdictions seem to really be wanting to deal with it. So we'll see where that goes. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Wilson. Any hands raised, any emails? No, okay. Then we will close this section of the staff report and move on to special presentations. Presentations by HCOG planner Michelle Nielsen on transit needs assessment, public hearing on unmet transit needs. Page 31 in our packets. Is Michelle here? I think she's up there.
Yes.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay in Rio Dell? So
Yeah.
great. And I appreciate the city and working with Karen to enable me to participate remotely. I am actually in Eureka this evening, but thank you for enabling having this option to make this presentation and for this public hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and get my share my screen, and let's hope we don't have too many technical difficulties. And give me this one. Share. And so let's go here. So hopefully there you're seeing our intro slide on the regional transit update for this evening. So showing Ride Humboldt, the rebranding for HTA and all its partners, Redwood Transit, Eureka, Arcata, Soham, Willow Creek, and then also City of Fortuna and the Yurok tribe are also transit providers locally. So just to give an overview of what, I'm gonna move myself here, an overview of what the unmet transit needs process is. The Transportation Development Act, that's state law, provides funding for transit. Simply put, an unmet transit need is a public transportation need that is not being met by the current transportation system. This process identifies and evaluates the adequacy of existing public transportation services based on the input that we hear from hearing bodies like yourself, from the community, and residents. And there's different, in addition to tonight's public hearings and others that are being held by other agencies, there's various means for folks to provide input. And I'll give a little overview of that towards the end of the presentation. Locally, the process involves public hearings, releasing an online survey that is now available. It's available in both English and Spanish. Receiving comments from the public by email and phone calls to the HCOG office. So an unmet transit need, at a minimum, those are trips that have been requested by residents who do not have access to transit or specialized transportation or private transportation services, or it could be trips that have been requested from residents who do not have resources to travel to for medical appointments, shopping, social recreation activities for their jobs, education, training, and that sort of thing. And also, an unmet transit need can include proposed public transportation that are identified in a regional transportation plan. And there is sufficient broad-based community support, which means that's likely folks would likely use the service on a routine basis. And so this definition, they have to be consistent with the Transportation Development Act, but there is some allowance in state law for the definitions to reflect local conditions. And this definition before your council is the one that was adopted by the HCOG Board of Directors fairly recently. All right, so there's the second part of it. So is there an unmet transit need? And then the second part of that, is it reasonable for that need to be met? And so on this slide, you're looking at what the reasonable to meet criteria are. Again, this is another definition that was adopted by the HCOG board. So we have a service, it must be operationally feasible and financially feasible. And some parameters are given on the slide, that there's roadways to a point, and it must be safe to operate, and there's funding available. Another consideration for determining whether a unmet transit need is reasonable to meet is, does the service projected to meet the minimum marginal fare box return ratio of 10% within 2 years. And also that changes are in addition to an unmet need that should have sufficient broad-based community support. Again, going back to people who have requested the service are likely to use it, and that there's at least 2 of those. So just an overview of the cycle. So we are at this current phase here, the public comment period. We're taking public input until the end of the year through the agency hearings. HCOG board itself will have a public hearing on December 19th. Like I mentioned, there's the online survey. Members of the public can call the HCOG office or email, and I have that information on the last slide, and I can share it with this presentation with the slide if there's information in here that could be helpful to distribute to the community.
Michelle.
Yes.
So is there any way you can make that bigger? Because we literally cannot see anything but the slide itself.
Yeah, let me see what I can do. Let me first get control of my mouse here and get it to not be this thing. Okay. Well, we'll just do it over here. Let's see. So is that a little bit easier to see? Is it bigger?
Well, it is bigger, but it's not like the whole screen, I think. But as long as you supply us with, I guess that'll be sufficient.
Yeah. So we're here now until the end of the year. January, we're, go back, compile all those comments that we get. And also we review those with the transit operators. Then we start preparing the draft report. And then in March, April of next year, the Social Services Technical Advisory Committee will provide recommendations on the draft report, and along with transit reviewer providers, give input to staff. And then also the public will have an opportunity to give input on the draft report. And then about May is typically when the report is presented to the HCOG board for adoption. So let me kind of go back. Oh my. Let's see. But yeah, I'll be happy to provide it afterwards. So just briefly, there are known transit needs that we've heard through this process, because this is the unmet transit needs is an annual process. I didn't mention that. So these are things we've heard over time, the need for more frequent service, earlier and later service on the weekends, Sunday service on the main line, the regional one that goes from far as north as Trinidad down to I know it goes to Rio Dell, and also to, I think it hits Garberville as well. And then later night service on Friday and Saturday night between Eureka and Arcata. So in terms of in terms of ridership, just I'll go briefly through some slides I've put together just for your council. So this shows HTA ridership changes over time on the fiscal year. We have the two main lines here, or two lines that have large counts, the region and Eureka, as you can see. So the turquoise color is the most recent fiscal year. So there's been these are showing increases, gradual, especially on Eureka since the low point of the pandemic. Southern Humboldt has seen their service has seen a pretty good increase. Willow Creek is actually, their ridership number is actually greater than at the before the pandemic in fiscal year 2019, 2020. And the dial ride, it had been increasing, but last year it did see a dip in ridership. But generally, the ridership has been recovering over time since the pandemic. And so total passenger trips last year were 480,300 trips for the HTA lines. That doesn't include Arcata. So just this graph just shows kind of the same data, but stretched out over time. And with the deltas between 2022, 2023, and 2024. So continuing to see increases since the pandemic, but a little bit of a slowing in the most recent fiscal year. And I have Arcata in here. I thought I took that out, but you can see kind of the same trends, but interestingly enough, this red line is HSU Cal Poly enrollment over the same duration of time, which there's been not much change in enrollment, but ridership on the Arcata Mad River Transit System has been definitely increasing. So that's kind of an interesting trend. And then in terms of what HTA has new services and new initiatives they've undertaken, they are adding hydrogen fueling station, hydrogen buses. They're working on the development of a intermodal transit center in Eureka. And you may have seen the press release. It was in the Loco and the Redheaded Black Belt about they were recently awarded a $18.7 million grant to further expand the fleet of lower emission vehicles, improve information for transit riders, which is actually having arrival and departure time, more real-time data and at the bus stops. And so that should make it easier for riders. And then also to increase frequency of services. They did do a soft launch of a micro transit using dial-a-ride buses called Flex. It's an on-demand micro transit service. At this time, operates in the greater Humboldt Bay region. And I didn't see information. I don't have information. I mean, I think if it's successful, they would look at expanding that to other areas farther out. But I didn't see any information about that. But I'm meeting with HTA tomorrow, so maybe I can provide a little update that could get distributed to the community. And also, another implementation has been unified branding and fares. It's now their lines are $2 instead of the $2.10, and it's consistent just to make it easier for riders. And they've also, you may have heard about the North State Express Route 101 that launched earlier this year. So it connects to down into Mendocino Transit, so folks can actually get into Santa Rosa and to the Bay Area. So they're seeing the ridership as of late June was about 630 riders. But folks can also connect to Crescent City on Red Coast Transit and to Santa Rosa via Mendocino Transit. So if you have questions or someone who'd like to give input on a potential unmet transit need, we would encourage them to, they can email us, they can call us. Those are two ways that we love to hear from folks. And then we also have an online survey that's, like I said, in English and Spanish. It will be available for folks to complete until the end of the year. So and it only should take folks less than 10 minutes to complete. And even if you haven't ride the bus, we encourage you to take the survey. And even if input may not be an unmet transit need, all input is valuable because it's used as documentation to support grant application for improving transit service, including capital improvements. It's used to support those grant applications. So we definitely encourage people to give their input. So that's my presentation, and I can stop sharing my screen and answer any questions. And yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll bring to council, Councilmember Woodall? No. Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Councilmember Orr? Councilmember Wilson?
No.
No? So I don't think we have any questions. I can add to what Drew was saying as far as the new tap to pay. You can use the same card all from here all the way down to Mendocino and the Mendocino area. It's all one system now. They have gotten the fares where they're consistent, and it should be less of a hassle for people to use the system. And they are really working hard to also connect to Reading to get to Sacramento, because there's no way to get from here to Sacramento on transit. So those things are also in the works. So there are unmet needs, but I would say that they are trying very hard to reach a point where they're meeting them. Are there any hands raised or any emails? Okay, so I think, Michelle, I thank you. We thank you, and sending the slides, because that way we can actually see. Oh, we have them. Okay, you already sent them, so we just we'll just get them from Karen.
Super.
So, thank you very much, and you have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye.
And now we're in public hearing. Did you open the public hearing? Oh, we have to have a public, I thought that was my asking the public. Are there,
Well, I probably don't have it, so it's still on my mind.
is
I
there,
was just, you didn't mention the email address for the website for the survey.
oh, it was on the, oh, you couldn't see it on the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a phone number and an email address. Michelle, could you put that, or just tell us? It was HCOG.
Yeah.
I'll just call her now.
Yeah. Karen.
You're on mute, yeah, so,
Yeah, the email address is info@hcog.net. And then the phone number is 707-444-8208. And that there's a slide in the there's 2 slides in the packet with that information. So to maybe make that easier.
and there's a QR code to scan to do the
Yes.
survey, correct?
Yes.
And is it- Am I supposed to be doing this? I'm not doing
I
it.
think, we've opened the public hearing, we've heard comment, and we have not received any other, emails or, anything via Zoom, so I think we can go ahead and close the public comment and the next agenda item.
Close the public hearing. That was the part I was missing. Closing the public hearing. And again, Michelle, thank you. Now we will move on to the presentation of our annual financial report for fiscal year 2023-24, page 38 in our packets. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes and members of the council. I'll go ahead and hand this over to Mr. Sanborn.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Garnes and members of the City Council. The annual financial report summarizes and analyzes the city's financial performance for fiscal year 2023-2024. Details of the report describe revenues and expenditures incurred during the fiscal year and explain material differences between the values and adjusted budget. Financial reserves and fund balances are also updated at the terminus of the fiscal year. This report was created using unaudited financials as of June 30th, 2024, and we anticipate the audit to be completed in early 2025. The city has 3 main fund types within which its finances are consolidated: the general fund, enterprise funds consisting of water and sewer, and special revenue funds. City revenues exceeded expenses by just over $215,000, principally due to increases in the CDBG fund, cannabis tax revenue, and interest earned from the local agency investment account fund. This slide compares actual revenues and expenses to the budgeted amounts for major funds. Revenue amongst the major funds was 10.3% higher than estimated. Water and sewer reported increased revenues, in part due to an increase in grant-funded sewer studies and reimbursements received from claims associated with the December 2022 earthquake event. Total expenditures among the major funds were under budget by 6.3%. General fund expenditures were lower than budgeted by 19%, primarily due to budgeted capital projects not being completed. The city's fund balance totaled over $8.8 million as of the end of the fiscal year. The city expects total fund balances to decrease over the current fiscal year as American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA revenues are expended and large grant projects continue to progress towards completion. General fund revenues were roughly 18% more than budgeted. The city recorded higher than anticipated cannabis revenues, 45% over the budgeted amounts, along with reimbursement from the state and Cal OES for claims associated with specific earthquake expenses recorded in other revenues. The city's general fund realized $61,338 in interest revenues, And across all funds, due largely to the city's proactive decision to invest excess liquidity into LAIF, we brought in nearly $322,000 in interest in the last fiscal year. City general fund major revenues were $1.55 million for fiscal year 2023-24, with property taxes in lieu of vehicle license fees and retail sales tax bringing in over $504,000 and $635,000 respectively. General fund expenditures were $1.65 million or $387,000 under budget due to budgeted and not completed capital projects and generally lower department spending. Most notably, the city manager and police budget were combined at $215,000 under budget due to unfilled staff positions that were budgeted but not filled. Street revenues were 6% higher than budgeted, primarily due to higher revenues received across all the funds. Actual expenditures were 7% above budget due to capital projects being completed. The street funds consist of gas tax, SB1 road maintenance and rehab account, TDA funds, and RSTP revenues and expenditures. Actual revenues for the sewer enterprise funds were 4% more than budgeted, and expenditures were 2% less than the budgeted allocation. This variance is attributed to expenses directly related to the earthquake and increase in energy and insurance costs. Sewer fund balances decreased by $92,901, or 7% less than estimated during the 2023-24 budget. Actual revenues for the water enterprise fund were 7% more than budgeted, and expenditures were less than 1% more than budgeted. The variance in Water Capital Fund 062 is directly related to emergency earthquake expenditures, while water operations remain lower due to salary savings. Water fund balances increased by 2% more than estimated during the 2023-24 budget development. Other major funds included in the Special Revenues Fund include the Building Fund, the Supplemental Law Enforcement Services Fund, and the CDBG Fund. The Building Fund receives a general fund transfer annually to cover excess expenditures over revenues. The Supplemental Law Enforcement Services Fund supplements law enforcement services, such as salaries and benefit costs. And the CDBG Fund had a balance of $666,180. These funds are currently under contract with the County of Humboldt to offer loans to qualified applicants impacted by the 2022 earthquake disaster. A new section of the annual financial report is the financial impacts of the December 2022 earthquake disaster. The city is working with our partners at Cal OES to file claims for reimbursements related to earthquake damage in the community. The city is entitled to 75% reimbursement for qualified expenses, with the opportunity to request 100% reimbursement on a project-by-project basis. And as you can see on the chart, the city has actually received the 100% on a handful of projects that we've submitted for. As of June 30th, 2024, the city incurred over $830,000 in earthquake-related expenditures, split between the general fund, sewer, and water enterprise funds. Of these items, the city has submitted reimbursement claims for 7 of them and have received reimbursement for 6, in the amount of $442,274. The master earthquake list is a project with a cost of nearly $36 million, and the city's 25% cost share, if no additional reimbursements were granted, would be just over $9 million. One additional item covered in the annual report is a 10-year comparison. The city has seen significant change in the last decade. Natural disasters, pandemics, and the fall of the local cannabis industry have challenged Rio Dell and Humboldt County in many different ways. Despite these challenges, the city continues to grow. The general fund balance has increased by 69% in the last 10 years to $1.8 million. The city's enterprise funds have also seen increased revenues and expenditures over time. Sewer operations revenues have increased by 30% and expenditures by 46%. Water operations revenues have increased by 52%, with expenditures increasing by 15% over that same period of time. I'd like to thank you all for your time this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for all your hard work. It's a lot. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just really appreciate how well you boil all that down and how pretty your PowerPoints are. It's a lot of complicated information and you make it understandable. And also thank you for ending on a high note. I like the 10-year comparison. Sometimes things seem really tough and hard and down,
Right.
but I appreciate that knowing
Yeah,
that.
it's good to get a micro look at it and kind of back out a little bit. And get
Yes,
the picture, so.
I appreciate that. But no questions. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Wilson?
I don't have any questions, I appreciate the report, and, despite all the downturns that we've had, we're still doing pretty good. On the 25% part with that we're not getting reimbursed for, how are we dealing with that, or we're just not doing the stuff that's.
So out of the projects that we've submitted reimbursement for, every project that we submit, we request from the state to cover the additional 25%. And we qualified for that by taking actions immediately following the earthquake that qualified us for that. The 4 projects that we've requested, we have gotten that 25% reimbursement. So the city was made whole. And the additional projects, we've sent those requests in. So there is quite a time lag between sending the request and getting the results. But we're incredibly pleased that the initial tranche of our requests have been, positively reacted to. And we're hoping that momentum can continue as we approach some of these more costlier projects down the road.
It's still to be determined by the state.
Yes, sir.
What they do. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Orr?
No questions for me, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Woodall?
Just thank you. You always make this easy to understand when you prepare it. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any members of the public? Questions? Hands raised? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Travis. Thank the entire staff. I mean, because
Sure.
you give information to him and then he puts it all together. So, it's a team effort. And thank you all for everything you've done. Good to do down there. All right, so there will be no action, so we will move on to item 2. No, I'm sorry, we will move on to special call items. Item 1, authorize staff to develop and issue an RFP for additions to the dog park. Page 57 in our packet, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council. So at the request of Mayor Garnes, staff is requesting direction from the council related to additional fencing and entryway into a new section of the dog park for a Smalls area. As the council will recall, the dog park project was significantly scaled back after bids were received that far exceeded the available financing. So in the end, the dog park did not include an area for the exclusive use of smaller dogs. And that can be a common feature in many dog parks across the area. Staff did do some initial research to develop a portion of the dog park related to this issue. And basically, the related work would involve obviously new fencing and also a kind of a new portion of the entryway. So typical dog park format, there is kind of a 2-gate airlock entryway where you take a leash dog into the unleashing area, unleash it, you have the door closed behind you, and then you can open the door inwards to the dog park. So that area would need to be expanded, and then new fencing would need to be placed within the existing footprint of the dog park for a Smalls area. So staff did do some initial quick outreach to gauge some cost estimates related to these additions, in addition to the labor associated with that. These estimates are about $6,000 roughly. Now, the caveat to this is not an official bidded, submittal. And so, a contractor working under, an RFP and an agreement with the city would need to purchase certain insurances, would need to be able to pay prevailing wage, and also there's a bunch of state compliance paperwork that has to be filled out that not every contractor is able to do or willing to do. So this is if this were to be put out to bid, most likely the cost would significantly inflate. I don't think it would exceed $12,000, but maybe somewhere in between 6 and 12 is my guess. So basically, staff is looking for direction, either to authorize the development of an RFP, issuance of an RFP for this addition. We would then, of course, return to the council for the approval and budget adjustments for this addition to the dog park. So with that, I will go ahead and return it back to the mayor and see if there's any additional comment.
Okay, and I just, when I approached the city manager, the main reason that, well, first of all, I thought that there was gonna be a small section, and then there wasn't. But that was because we did have to back off because of the numbers at the time. And so I clearly, everyone knows I have a small dog. I went to the dog park. There was someone in there with a big, it was a pit bull. Could have been nice, I don't know. I didn't approach the pup, but the person was there. They looked up, they saw us. They didn't say whether the dog was friendly or not. They didn't make any motion to leave so that, you know, 2 other little smaller dogs could come in, and basically they didn't have to, but it's not a one dog park. That's not the goal of a dog park, is for one dog. And so most dog parks, I don't know that all of them, but most dog parks do have a small section for the smaller dogs because they can get hurt, they can be afraid of the bigger dogs, you know, and so on and so forth. And so I just thought it would be nice for us to have that, because I know that it's not just me. There's a lot of people that have small dogs. And also, there are people who come from out of town. And when you go into when you're traveling, you actually you look up dog parks. And you can, a lot of people who are, you know, big dog people, I don't mean big, large dogs, I mean just big dog people. You know, they love dogs. You know, they look for a way, look for a space to take their dogs so they can take them off leash and have them play. And a small dog section would be very helpful to people who have smaller dogs coming through. You know, plan to come here, you get here, and there is no small dog section, and there's big dogs in the dog park. So I just think it is something that even if we don't do now, we should keep on our radar to do in the future. I think it is worthwhile to do, and I think it's important to do. So that's why I brought that to the city manager and asked him to bring it to the council to have this conversation. And that's all I have. So I will, who wants, Julie?
I've had somebody in the community ask me about that, having a smaller area for smaller dogs. Even if the big dogs are friendly, they can run over it. Yeah, for the smaller dogs, and she was interested in having that done.
Make no sense.
Sometimes you gotta protect the big dogs from those vicious.
Well, it's true. It's true. It's true.
No, I'm in favor of this. I also think anything that polishes and legitimizes that park, you know, makes it look nicer and more official is a good idea for us too. So yeah, I'm fine with this.
Councilmember Moore?
I agree. I think adding a small section would make it look more like a dog park than a fenced yard. So.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yeah, I'm with you, I thought there was a small dog park. I know we scaled back because we had COVID stuff in there. What was the additional 6,000 for? This looked pretty competitive with the fence. But what was the additional 6,000?
So it includes powder coated rails, corner posts.
I think he means the additional, to get from 6 to 12.
Oh, well, Yeah, so this would be like the cost if a private individual were to bid out a project, but government doesn't work that way. The city is required, and all contractors who work for the city on projects in excess of, I believe, $500 have to pay prevailing wages. So those are set by the state of California based off of not really the Rio Dell area, but larger, kind of Bay Area and set. So when we do pave a road, for example, those all have to be prevailing wage jobs. Any public works project pretty much that we engage in has to pay those union wages. And so there's also a verification process through the Department of Industrial Relations and a bunch of kind of paperwork related to complying with that. And it is the contractor themselves that is liable for non-compliance with prevailing wage. So in addition to that, there are certain insurance requirements as well that add to the cost that, this bid doesn't exactly cover.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Well, I'd like to see it done. I was hoping there would be a way we could do it in steps, but it looks like whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna have to do it as a full project to do it, in order to do it, and we don't have any budgeted for the suit for this.
No, there are definitely pockets of funding in the city to do an additional capital project. So I'm not really concerned about, this portion of funding it. If you recall, we had an original budget. The dog park was originally grant funded. The original scope was about $180,000. And I forget what the final number was, but it was in excess of 200, somewhere around 220.
Yeah, 212,000.
$212,000 to do that. And so that's why, and you look at it, and you ask yourself, it's a fenced in yard, and that is a $212,000 fenced in yard because the local government is required to do prevailing wage and all these other requirements that the contractor has to follow through on. So they're very expensive projects.
Well, hopefully we can find a pocket that's underutilized that we can take and move this over to the, because I'm sure the community would respond well to the small dog idea. That's all.
And so if it goes out to bid and it comes back with ridiculously high, we don't have to accept it. We can just say, no, it's not happening in this moment.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a two-step process. Council authorizes staff to go ahead and issue an RFP. We get the bids back. And then you'll know what the actual number is, and then you would make that decision, yes or no. So
thank you. Any questions? Donald? Yeah. Any answers? Any emails? Okay, then is there a motion to authorize the staff to develop and issue an RFP for additions to the dog park and return to council for approval?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Have a motion and a second? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Now we will, item 2, page 60 in our packets, authorizing the city manager to negotiate an agreement for services with the regional government services for human resource assessments and services in coordination with the city attorney. City manager.
thank you, Mayor Garnes and members of the council. So we do have a representative from RGS on the line, Ms. Acosta, or Greg, give the presentation. We'll see if she has anything to add to the presentation. So the city of Rio Dell is in need of professional services related to human resource activities of the organization. Historically, the city has been resource constrained with the human resources functions of this organization being spread out over multiple individuals in multiple departments. So over the years, ongoing enhancements and amendments to MOUs, resolutions, and changes in the law and changes to the employee handbook have led to the current MOUs and the handbook becoming more difficult to administer and understand by all parties and potentially non-compliant with current law. So additionally, the city will soon be undertaking labor negotiations with 2 bargaining groups and all management staff, which I believe is about 6 individual contracts, with new agreements anticipated to become active on July 1st of 2025. So it's anticipated that these negotiations will be more time intensive than in years past. So the proposal seeks to, 1, develop a needs assessment and work plan, 2, review and revise city personnel policies and procedures, and to 3, provide some generalized HR administration and consultation services between now and the conclusion of contract negotiations, anticipated by July of 2025, with access to these services on a reduced basis ongoing. So estimates of the total cost of this agreement, estimating the total cost of the agreement is difficult. So the amount of time spent on labor negotiations is a result of multiple factors, some of which are outside of the control of administration or the council. So the current estimate as written in the report is $80,000 to $100,000 for this service over the initial 6 to 12 month period of what I would call kind of a reset on those guiding documents. However, subsequently to writing the staff report, I think we've been able to narrow this down to more in a range of $50,000 to $60,000 based on the anticipated time allotment. Again, not totally in control of the city manager or staff, but up to a certain degree to the bargaining process itself. It's important to note that much of this cost would occur over that initial period of 6 to 12 months due to the need to correct deferred upkeep of the current structure. So you have kind of this upfront cost of the reset, and then ongoing, I wouldn't anticipate the city spending any significant amount of dollars, over $10,000 ongoing. The service would be utilized on an ad hoc basis for difficult circumstances and areas where we need additional resources to kind of upkeep the system. So after a successful reset of the system, there could be savings in potential legal bills because obviously when you involve a city attorney or alternate city attorney, it is pretty expensive. Also, the expense of misunderstandings, errors, or other issues related to the upkeep of the system would be reduced. So once completed, the city intends to retain RGS, as stated earlier, in an ongoing capacity to help maintain and leverage their expertise for these policies and procedures to continue to be unquestionably compliant with the law, going forward. Obviously, in California, HR law changes fairly often, and those changes can be significant. So again, those ongoing costs will be significantly less than the initial 12-month period. The city's budget for the current fiscal year does not include an allocation for these services. If approved to proceed, staff would need to return with the budget adjustment to fund these services. And so RGS is a California Joint Powers Authority, and we do have Ms. Acosta on the line. If there's anything else that she would want to add before we go ahead and turn this back to the council. So hopefully.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Fanny Acosta. I oversee the human resources service lines for RGS. And as Mr. Knopp stated, we have experienced advisors that work very efficiently in the different areas of support that your agency may need. We work with a variety of other similar sized agencies, public agencies. We specialize in working solely with public agencies, and we currently work with over 125 partners. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for being here. Councilmember Orr?
I have none, it's pretty well laid out.
Councilmember Woodall?
I have someone, I need to go back to try it.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes, only when you talked back to, instead of being 80 to 100, it was 50 to 60, is that doing the reset, what you're calling to get it squared up
Yes.
with the handbook and the apply to the laws and those?
Yeah, so so the estimated cost for updating the personnel policies and procedures is approximately $10,000. The human resource needs assessment and work plan would be $30,000. And then if everything went perfectly and we could get everything squared away in a neat package, with only spending 40 to 50 hours of RGS's time on it, that could be an additional $8,500. I suspect it'll be a little bit more than that. So I think an additional 20 grand is more in line with a realistic estimate of what it would take, and potentially again, possibly more. The idea here would be we would set a not to exceed limit. And obviously the council would be involved in the labor negotiations. And if it hit that mark, we would have to return to the council in open public session to increase that cap. That would be the idea.
So the part I see on the back sheet there on every page. 69 or whatever it is, we're talking about the 100, roughly 10 hours a week and 20 hours a week. We're not planning on spending that. That's what you were talking about. Probably 10,000 a year is roughly what you're.
No, no, we would, I think those two options are not necessary. I think the HR function in the city can still be handled on an ongoing basis with the existing staff. Once these issues are cleared up, and then pulling in RGS as needed for kind of, difficult circumstances or issues that pop up, being able to leverage their kind of HR expertise to quickly address those issues. So
we're not looking at, we're gonna annually spend $100,000 on HR, just as we get, like you said, an ad hoc type situation once we're squared up.
yeah, once we're squared up, there's some upfront costs, and I think the $60,000 would be a good estimate for that amount of effort initially. And then ongoing, I wouldn't anticipate it being more than $10,000 ongoing annually. There aren't that many issues that we encounter that we find difficult, but I think having that assistance ready on the phone to call would be helpful.
So are we approving that tonight, or are you gonna do some negotiations, come back again?
No, so what we would do is work with the city attorney to draft an agreement with RGS and place that cap on the
60,000 cap.
Yeah, verify that number that is reasonable, and then return to the council at our next meeting for formal approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, I had a question, but I forgot.
Well, let me go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I mean.
There was something like this.
Yeah.
Would there take much staff time to get prepared to do this, or do they just take it and run with it?
No, staff is still gonna be, I think it's gonna have to be very involved in the process, kind of giving direction. But as the council and your negotiator, have discussions, could ramp up the involvement of RGS services as the council deems fit.
And being as they do human resources too, if it came to it, can we possibly use them as negotiators when we're working with our contract, where they would negotiate with our?
Yeah, so that's really, that was that discussion over the additional, $8,500 to $20,000, would be utilizing that expertise, across our two bargaining units. So you have the Peace Officers Association, the Rio Dell Employees Association, and then you have individual management group contracts. So the finance director, city clerk, the wastewater superintendent, water superintendent, potentially the chief of police, who would be a new contract coming up, community development director.
And if you look at some of the other places that do this, does this fall sort of in a ballpark figure with other services from different companies?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any, Donald, do you have any questions? No. Any hands raised, any emails? Okay, then, thank you for coming. I'm going to ask for a motion to authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement with the services, regional government services for human resources assessment and services in coordination with the city attorney.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate it and look forward to working with your company if that happens.
Thank
Okay,
you. Good evening. We look forward to the potential partnership.
thank you. Now we will move on to ordinances and special resolutions.
And
Yes.
Mayor Garnes, I'll go ahead and interrupt you on this one to abbreviate, since I know everybody kind of probably really wants to get home and see the news and what's going on. So Mr. Caldwell is not here tonight, so staff is recommending that we go ahead and continue this item to your next regularly scheduled city council meeting on the 19th of this month.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So council reports, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, let me get my giant list. We're, you guys look forward to twice a month. Just to reiterate the voting, the community voting for our community art project, this Saturday, 11 to 1. Tuesday, a week from today, 5 to 7 here in the council chambers. And that means all of council members too, and all of city staff, right? Because even if you don't necessarily reside in Rio Dell, you work here, you care about the community. So I really hope to see every single one of you pop on by and cast your vote. And who doesn't want to look at 13 lovely artists anyway? Well, their work. So please do come by for that. Okay, I wanted to report out on our Parks Master Plan Community Survey. I neglected to bring the actual beautiful pie charts. I'm hoping those will pop up in an agenda packet for us sometime soon, but I can't say that over 50% of the people who responded to that survey were ages 5 to 17. So we got a really, really nice chunk of the youth of this community, and I need to thank the school for supporting me and helping me with that. Over 50% of the people who responded wanted to see improvements to the Davis Street Park. That one seemed to be the clear winner. And over 50% of the people responding voted that a pump track or a BMX track would be their top choice, seconded very closely by outdoor courts, meaning pickleball, basketball, things like that. I really think that the city should purchase a chunk of the Davis Street Park from the school district. It's a long, lengthy process and it's a long game here. But I do have, like 3 or 4 years of FaceTime invested with them. I don't think that they'll just tell me no, right? So I'm gonna go to their meeting next Thursday at 6:45 p.m. unless they change it, in which case I'll let you know. And simply ask, to reopen the conversation, whether that takes the form of forming an ad hoc committee or just agendizing me for their December or January meeting where I can go give a little spiel. But that's my ultimate goal, is that the city purchases a piece of that land and puts in a pump track and a basketball court and things that are very easy to maintain and not super prone to vandalism. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up that you are about to hear a lot more about parks for me. Okay, update on our spay and neuter voucher program. They've been out in the community for about a month. We have given out 12 vouchers, pretty evenly spaced between cats and dogs. And I have to tell you that every single person who's received a voucher has been so thankful and so appreciative, even if it doesn't cover the whole thing, which a lot of them don't. Any help is very, very much appreciated. I think that spaying and neutering pets can be very cost prohibitive. So people, even the ones who like to be negative about anything they can find, have not found a way to be negative about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, we did receive more money from the McLean Foundation, so we have to give a big thank you to them to help us keep this program going. And so I really do wanna thank the McLean Foundation and Sarah Reback, who's on that board, and offered us up some of her board member funding for that on top of the grant they gave us. I got a couple other leads on funding from my last read at the meeting, so we're looking into that too. So it's very exciting. Once again, it's just, it's an important thing, and we're the first to do it. And lastly, I just wanted to give a big thank you to the Resource Center and the Fire Department for the trunk or treat event on Halloween that seemed very well attended, and the rain magically went away for it, and then came in strong the next day. So it really seemed like the kids were having fun. It was safe. It was just a nice, wholesome community Halloween event. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Question.
Yes.
The rebate funding that you're looking for, is that for the spay and?
The spay and neuter, yeah, we're looking at maybe Headwaters Fund with the county or the Lost Coast Kennel Club. Somebody told me this is the time of year but yeah, you know, all you gotta do is announce one thing in a read-out meeting and you got people giving you suggestions, so. Yeah.
Councilmember Orr.
We heard from HCOG on the unmet needs. Otherwise, there's some movements in the ranks at HCOG, so the next meeting is a closed session only, so not too much to bring back.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Yeah, we have an HCOG, not HCOG, HWMA coming up next week, but the RCEA, we resolved our director. I think that was in public, and now it was in public. They actually hired a lady who was, I wouldn't be surprised that has something to do with your closed session, was a former director of HCOG, Beth Burks. Yeah, she became the director of RCEA and was effectively on staff at the last meeting, which was the latter part of October. And so then we're having we'll see how that goes. So it's going to be obviously a lot of, probably a lot of changes or however that's done. But the meeting for November will be a week early because of Thanksgiving, and the same thing with the December meeting, but they scheduled that for the night of our council meeting. On whether that was filled out their little form wrong that they sent online, or they oversaw it, where it came. It comes on our third meeting, on the third Wednesday or third Tuesday, which is great to have this on the Tuesday. So my idea, which I'll bring up at the next meeting, is that they do like HWMA, they don't have meetings a couple times during the year. One in particular being December is not a good month because everybody's doing everything. So that's all I have here.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall.
This will be short. Rich, if you're watching TV tonight, we hope you're feeling better.
All right. We do.
We second that.
Second that. Thank you. And I just want to ask the city manager, is that something that needs to be on the agenda or consensus as far as the vice mayor going to the school board and saying, we want to agendize this and talk about it. Is that something that the council needs to do before she does that?
You know, I'm trying to remember if there was, and Karen might be able to help me with this, if we had a, liaisons already assigned to the school district. We have liaisons
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so, no.
for the fire district and the school
It's
district.
fire and, yeah, not the school. Not that we have
For the school.
It's been me for 3 years.
It's been voluntary.
I think, if the council would like to formally, make that appointment, we can have that appear at the next agenda.
Okay.
Or we could let it go for now and allow the council member to attend the meeting prior to official authorization to.
And I just want to reiterate, all I'm gonna do is say, hey, guys, how do you think we should talk about this? For all I know, they're gonna say, no, get out of here.
Right.
I don't think they're gonna say that.
Right.
But I would like to just read the room and then come back from there and decide if it's an ad hoc or what we're doing.
Okay. So we'll read the room. So to make sure, so that whatever's being done, we can hold on to it, not say,
Because I don't want
we
to
should have done this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just also add to that, if the school district becomes serious about that process, then absolutely there should be a formal appointment of an ad hoc from the
Yes.
city council.
And it's a lengthy, complicated process.
It is.
Okay.
Okay. Then is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second?
Second.
Yeah. It is adjourned until November 9th. What is it, November 19th?
Okay, so they're planning.
So that's the, October 19th? Wait, one more time. November 19th. Oh my God.
And deal with the
Oh, it's October 19th.
You know,